All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it's bowl week number 2. Had a great kickoff to this bowl season. It's the holidays, but my co-host, the man who has unlocked one of the secrets about Santa Claus, yes, he knows his heritage now. He has discovered that Santa is North Polish. My co-host, Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, if he's North Polish, that means must make good kielbasa and pierogies, right?
Mm, probably does. Or Mrs. Claus does at least.
Definitely. Knishes maybe even too.
Yeah, we'll take it. Or all sorts of things. All right, folks. Again, before we get rolling through this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell wherever you get. Check out spinablesports.com, making sure you know that that's who we are brought through. But before we get going through bowl week, Fresh, we'd be remiss if we did not spent a little bit of time talking about the unfortunate passing of Mississippi State coach Mike Leach. We talked about this a little bit when it happened. We kind of bounced around the idea whether or not we should just do a whole episode honoring Coach Leach, whether we should say, and we both kind of felt like let's give it a minute here because it came out of the blue. And that's the unfortunate thing, especially something that happened so close to the holidays. You feel terrible for his family, his friends, and loved ones, and even also feel terrible for the Mississippi State because he was a great coach. He had that program turning in the right directions, and they broke the mold when they made him. Never gave you coach talk, always kind of shot you straight from the hip. So, Fresh, what were your first thoughts when you heard the news that Coach Leach had passed?
Uh, Absolute shock. Just like I think everybody else was. A guy that you start seeing reports where he was at a holiday party the night, that Saturday night, the day before, and how it all just sort of happened so tragically, and so quick. It just sort of it stings you, and it really makes you want to, pause and realize that still life. And it kind of brought it real home. And it was actually, I know for a lot of people across the country, it was a tough day or two, maybe even 3 4 days until it really sunk in that this lovable, unique, amazing character, who's had an impact on so many people, whether he's met them or haven't, um, is no longer around. And it could happen at any point in the year. I think it even hurts more where it is at the end of the season, is in the holiday season, and you start thinking, year end and loved ones and family time, and it becomes a real emotional moment. Um, his impact at Washington State, you hear the stories from there. His impact at Texas Tech, him as an assistant all across the board, whether he's an OC at Oklahoma or Kentucky, or Valdosta State, or you know, I think there was even reports where he coached a team in Finland. I want to say, or somewhere in Finland, I believe is what the name of the team was. Um, just an eclectic character, teaching college courses, writing books. Um, his stories about, I think if you look him up on YouTube, you can find him. But breaking down the Pac-12 mascots and which one would win in a fight, or best Halloween candy, or even when he spoke to Alyssa Lang from the SEC Network and gave marriage advice to her and her fiance, which I thought was hysterical. Just those kind of stories where he lived, in the moment and on the cuff, and just an amazing dude. And I think it's poetic and perfect that they're playing in Tampa in that bowl game with the pirate ship there in the end zone, and there better be a team photo with the pirate ship, and just that whole thing sort of, it's weird how things happen in mysterious ways where that just sort of comes out to be, but um, it's a truly sad loss.
Yeah, I think my favorite story out of him is him in, I think it's the 1999 Red River rivalry, where he creates a fake play sheet and conveniently leaves it on the ground, and the GA picks it up, and all of a sudden, you know, te- like Texas thinks that they have the play sheet for Oklahoma, and I think they're like destroying them at halftime, and then they realize like this is all fake and stuff like that. I also went back, Fresh. I spent a lot of time watching his videos on YouTube, like watching some of his talks that he gave, some of the advice. He was an interesting dude. He always had a different way about him. Like he marched to the beat of his own drum. But if you listen to some of the advice they gave people, it was really sage advice. Like he said it in a different method, and he had different like way of comparing things to it, but the message was always there. Um, I had to go back and watch because before I used to watch the show Friday Night Lights a long time ago, and there's a scene where Coach Leach is in there, and I don't remember if I actually recognized him when I was watching Friday Night Lights back in the day. And now I'm like looking back and going, oh man, that like makes a lot of sense. Like that's a great little clip there. So it's sad. I really, it's really bad that we're at this point in, remembering all the great things about a person after they pass. But, that's the great thing I can take away with this whole situation is that we are remembering him for the good things. We're not remembering him for some scandal. We're not remembering him for some, you know, crime that he committed or along those lines. We're remembering him. We lost him way too soon. It's really unfortunate what happened, but we're remembering him for the funny moments, the moments he made us laugh, the moments he entertained us, and I think that's a really great life to live.
Yeah, I mean, he's the kind of guy that he is that he has a permanent seat at Captain Tony's bar in Key West. And if you don't know what Captain Tony's is, listen to Jimmy Buffett's song. It's talked about all the time. Anyone who's been out of Key West has been to Captain Tony's. And there's literally a bar stool with his last name, wood burned into it. Um, it's that kind of guy, and he were just really just wants to chill out and have a good time, be really relaxed, and live his own life. In the height of how crazy college football is, where there's recruiting and and game planning and preparing for the season and self scouting, he actually planned on spending almost the entire month of January down in Key West just chilling out, completely disconnecting from football. Weeks before what normally is the signing day period in February and getting ready for spring practice, he was going to completely disconnect. And that just right there shows you that he loves football, he enjoys it, but he has so many other things in life that he wants to be able to was wanted to be involved with, that didn't consume him. His playbook was maybe 25 plays. It wasn't these huge, 45, 50 different, segments of play charts that have 10 to 12 different audibles built off that. He was simplistic and he ran it to perfection, and really used that way to attack instead of really overwhelming people. I'm going to be simple. I'm going to do my job, and we're going to do these 20 plays to perfection. We are going to dominate that way. We don't need to have 400,000 variations of a formation. Um, and I think that right there's just a story for life of be excellent at the simple things and enjoy what you're doing.
And he goes out Egg Bowl champion, which I'm glad that he got to win his last game.
Yep.
All right, Fresh. So let's go to the bowls again. Let's kick it off for this second week of bowl season here. Now, first week of bowl season is kind of like I don't even want to know. I don't even know if I can describe first week of bowl season. It's kind of like a warm up game. Get you kind of ready to go, get you moving. But let's go to the second week because the second week's got like some interesting, intriguing matchups here. And the first one we're going to is the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons facing the Missouri Tigers. Wake Forest is a 1 point favorite in this game. Over under set at 60 points. As far as I know, at the time of record, most of these guys are playing in this game. Again, we apologize if I have a list in front of me of people who have opted out, and I'm sure that even this list now is out of date, but this seems like a game Wake Forest should roll in, but watch out for the Mizzou Tigers, man. tough team here. Fresh, what do you see going on with Missouri and Wake Forest?
Well, first off, the Gasparilla Bowl, the Pirate Party, the Pirate Invasion in Tampa. If you ever been, it's mid-January. Make a destination stop. It's a lot of fun. But the Gasparilla Bowl itself, um, this kind of look at Sam Hartman's story, in my opinion. Where is this his last game? He still has eligibility after this going forward, but does he want to, ride out in the sunset and go to the NFL? He is the greatest quarterback in Wake Forest history. Or does he really love, being a Demon Deacon and wants another run, run it back one more year and make another run at an ACC title? Especially with all the turnover that's happening in the league right now with quarterbacks and coaches and talent, if he returns, puts him in a pretty good spot with him and Dave and Coach Clausen there, run stuff in Winston Salem. But it's right now he has 3,400 yards passing, 35 touchdowns. He's 107 touchdown passes in his career, going back to 2018, well over 10,000 yards. I mean, the dude just can sling it, and I think him even have not declared at this point that he wants to even opt out just shows that he truly loves being a Demon Deacon, and I think wants to really get out there. And he also probably wants to get back another game with A.T. Perry, his big time receiver, looking at, I think he's 80 yards away from back to back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Has 26 touchdown receptions in the last 2 years combined and 141 receptions. The two of them have just a great connection. And I think the two of them want to keep going out there and put on a show and then see where the chips fall, where, if they get draft ratings or whatever. But it's a big game for them. I think they have a lot of pride coming after it and putting up, because there were a couple bumps in the road. They were highly ranked early in the year and kind of ebbed and flowed toward the end. But this is a program I think built in the structure between these two men, and guided by their head coach that they're going to come out and they're going to play their best game this weekend. Wake, though, like I said, they've had their ebbs and flows. They did lose 4 of their last 5. They couldn't get it all clicking. They had a lot of tough games down the stretch. And I think they want to end on a high note, too, especially since the year before having so much success. The other side, you look at Missouri. Coach Drinkowitz came in there. There was a lot of excitement, a lot of energy when he was hired on 3 years ago. And they kind of haven't really felt that since. It's been up and down, up and down. Nothing really fully grooving there from Missouri. They haven't really found an identity if they're an offensive explosion team, if they're a strong defense. Can they win the big game? They haven't really had that big win yet either that we've seen. I think this is a key moment for Drinkowitz and that entire staff and that program's direction. He got an extension this year, and I think it's because he had ties to Auburn, and they were kind of maybe didn't want him to hear the whispers of if things fell through going down to Auburn. So they gave him an extension. At the time, I didn't see why, other than keeping him from leaving, going somewhere else early. He did bring in 5-star receiver Luther Burden before the year. He's had some ups and downs. They had a little come to the common ground moment during the season, but he didn't really explode off the charts like everyone sort of expected him to. The receiver that did was Dominic Lovett, who had a great season this year for the Tigers, but won't be playing. He entered the transfer portal and he's pulled himself out of this football game. So you're kind of figuring, is this Burden's time to really, take the chance of that offense that he brought him in to be a 5-star? If he doesn't have a big game, does he put himself in the portal? Like, how do you maintain the current relationships of your players? I think that's a story not just for Drinkwitz, for the entire country, of if your player gets unhappy, are they jumping in the portal? We've already seen over 1,000 players, I think, in D1 go into the portal already. You've got to play the guys, and they've got to have success. If they don't feel wanted, they can always run to somebody else who feels that, hey, we'll find something for you. So this is a big game, I think, a big season for a big way to end the season for Drinkwitz in this Missouri program, because you're in the SEC and the way that South Carolina's playing, Tennessee's playing, Kentucky's solid, Georgia's there, Vanderbilt had success, and the SEC West has been up and down. You could get left behind and really suffer, and then you become a lost cause as a program, and that's not what you want as a head coach or even as the player. Interesting, another thing is when you're looking at Brady Cook, your quarterback. You let your other quarterback leave before the year, transferred up to Indiana. You gave Cook the job. He's been up and down all season. Really, is this his chance? Is he the answer for the Missouri program? Do you guys maybe go and get another quarterback in the portal and let him walk? Is this his last chance to showcase? Missouri's built on their defense this year. They played much better defense than they did offense. They are much more of a ground and pound team. But I think the Wake Forest energy, that entire program, and the quarterback receiver tandem they have left is going to push them to victory. And I'm taking the Deeks big in Tampa.
Yeah, Fresh. There's too much that Missouri is losing here that I'm not a huge fan of, because this gets really, really tough. I like Wake Forest in this game. I like this Wake Forest actually in this game kind of big. The only The only thing is that the two deep at Missouri is probably a little more stacked with talent than the two deep over at Wake Forest. So maybe some of these things can kind of be stomached by Missouri and that they can succeed. But they're losing both of their two best defensive linemen have opted out of this game. Isaiah McGuire and DJ Coleman, they're out. They had 12 and a half of their 36 sacks on the season this year. So that's a huge loss to lose up front. Wake Forest isn't really missing anybody here. And I was looking back at some of the Wake Forest games on the season. You know, when did Wake Forest really struggle? It's when they allowed a team that could put up points in bunches to allow just like to score heavy on them over and over and over again. And that they forced it into a track meet. And I don't think Missouri's got that type of offense to put this game into a track meet. You know, Missouri's two best wins of the season, they beat South Carolina, which that win at the end of the season looked better than that win at the time. And then they got a nice win at the end of the season versus Arkansas. Wake Forest is kind of like the same type of thing, man. You know, you take a look at Sam Hartman, they did beat Florida State, but then they have losses to Clemson. They have a loss to NC State. They have a loss to North Carolina. Wound up beating Syracuse, but have a loss to Duke. So I feel like these two teams are kind of on these even track level for their conference, which is, you know, the ACC and the SEC here. But in the end, like when I'm picking a game, I'm going back here and I'm looking at Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman rarely, and I mean rarely, it happened in the games they played predominantly most of the snaps. He only had 3 games where he was under 300 yards. This dude can sling it around. I'm excited to see him and A.T. Perry up with each other again. So give me Wake Forest and give me Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is going to roll in this game. I think at Wake Forest, big win in Tampa.
Yeah, it'll be a fun game.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, and the ECU Pirates. Arr. I love this game, man. I love ECU. I love Coastal Carolina. The Grayson McCall thing is just ridiculous here. I actually was reading some stuff about him in the transfer portal this morning. You know, you take a look at ECU, man. They had a half decent year. I liked ECU here in this game, but I don't know. I'll pass this rock over to you first here, Fresh, and let you roll with it because there's not a lot of guys. This is like the one game where there's not a boatload of guys opting out. There's not a boatload of guys that are sitting out for this game for the draft or in the transfer portal. So one big name, but that's about it.
Well, I mean, first off, Grayson McCall, if you declare you want to put yourself in the transfer portal, at that point right now, you're dead to me. Like, all right, you're gone. You're out. Don't tell me, oh, I still want to play quarterback for your team. No, you've already told me and your teammates that you're out. So peace out, brother.
How do you
Go get ready
sell
for
that
wherever you
to
want
your
to go.
teammates?
I would honestly, I'd be like, you're done. Like, I would not let him on the field. If I was a captain of the team, I'd be like, sorry, you're not allowed in the locker room. If you want to transfer and not be here, peace out. I don't want to play with you anymore. That just shows you don't want to play with us. Like, you just like it's insulting. So that's all I got to say about that before I use a derogatory language about this activity, because I think it's just really terrible and it's not a sign of good leadership. If I'm an NFL coach, I'm seeing a quarterback bailing out a team and then saying, "No, I'll still play for you for one game." No, get out of here. Done. Exit. Um, Other side though, Coach Chadwell leaving the Chants put the Chanticleers in a great spot. He brought that program really to the upper echelon of where they need to be, and got that program energized. Definitely excited for him going to Liberty and taking over for Coach Hugh Freeze. You make that next jump from one program to the other. So big step there. And I'm sure he will be missed there in Coastal Carolina as they go forward. He just brought something different to that team that they hadn't had before in program history. Looking at the game, though, both offenses are averaging 30 points a game and over 400 yards. So there's no lack of offense. And there's definitely a serious lack of defense on both sides because both defenses are giving up well over 400 yards. So if you're a betting person, take the over on points. There will be a lot in this football game. ECU has a real chance to showcase. They get national broadcast. Sometimes the games that really aren't always the focal point. They had a great one versus NC State, which they may or may not have should have won early on. Then they beat UCF. There's definitely talent. And they can play to a certain level, and it's really led by quarterback Colton Ahlers, who had a great year. 3,400 yards, 23 touchdowns, also ran for 5. He's definitely the leader quarterback right there, and he has that offense. They just sort of they feed off of the energy and feed off some momentum. I think him playing in this football game, being there, gives them some sort of balance and gives them something they can look forward to and keep moving with. Running back Keaton Mitchell hosted back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, totaling 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns this season. In the last 5 games, his worst game was versus UCF when he ran for 105 and 2 touchdowns and averaged 6.6 carry. He has definitely gotten better and better and better as the season has gone on here lately. He is going to be the focal point. They're going to have to rely on him. I really don't know what to make of what the Chanticleers are going to put out there offensively with Grayson McCall out. How many of those guys are actually going to play at the full go? I definitely think, though, that ECU is going to take advantage of the opportunity. I also found it was pretty funny where both these schools, one's right there on the coast in South Carolina, actually northern South Carolina, and ECU is there on the eastern part of North Carolina, probably maybe 90 minutes from each other, maybe even less, and they're going to play this game in Birmingham. We could play this game, just roll it out. We're somewhere in eastern, that right there in the border maybe, but they're playing this game in Birmingham, so all the fans that are really close to each other have to drive all the way to Alabama in the middle of December to watch them play, which is depressing to think about. In the end, though, we're going to keep the pirate theme because, in honor of Coach Leach, the Pirates of ECU will raid and pillage the Chants, and they will swing their swords and take it down, and we'll have an ECU win for the AAC.
Yeah, Fresh, this game is really intriguing to me. I'm really thinking that I'm in line with you. Grayson McCall, I can't get over this with him. I really can't. He's an incredible quarterback. He's done great things at Coastal Carolina the last 3 years. 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, one of the best touchdowns to interception ratios in the country there. But I really like this ECU offense with Holton Ahlers and Keaton Mitchell. I think that them as a 1-2 punch over there is really great. You take a look at Keaton Mitchell, what he's done, 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns as well. Right? Isaiah Winstead, 1,000-yard receiver. CJ Johnson needs 70 more yards. He's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. This ECU offense is pretty electric there. I don't know. I just kind of have a feeling for them that they're going to be the better team on this day. And there's something hanging over Coastal Carolina. Oh, great. Our best player, our player that everyone, if you know a single player on Coastal Carolina, it's Grayson McCall. You aren't knowing a lot of the other players on that team. And you take a look at how Coastal Carolina started to kind of end the year, and there's some cracks in the armor showing in November. You take a look, they beat App State, which is only a 6-6 team. Only won by a touchdown there. Southern Miss beat the Southern Miss only by 3 in that game. You take a look at lost to James Madison, got absolutely boat raced against them, and then they lose to Troy. This Coastal Carolina team is kind of really, really struggling. I like ECU in this game. I like ECU to really run away with it as well. But I don't know, man. This is a good one. I think this will be an entertaining game. So I've been on ECU's campus. I really like ECU. I think it's a really cool place to be at, and I understand why a lot of people would wind up going there. But yeah, give me the Pirate as well for Coach Leach on this one, and I think that ECU's offense is going to be a little more electric. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the next one here. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl at Chase Field in New York. Right? This is in
Arizona. Chase Field in Arizona.
There's more than one Chase Field?
There's only one Chase Field.
Chase Field in New York. They're playing it a baseball stadium like they did the Fenway thing.
That they play that Yankee Stadium. Chase Field is the baseball stadium in it for the Diamondbacks play.
Oh,
It's the third baseball. It's the third game at a baseball field.
all right. Hey, it's bowl season, man. Not a whole lot makes sense. All right, here we're
Nope.
going to the Wisconsin Badgers versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Well, we talked about in the Coastal Carolina ECU game how very few people have opted out. Pretty much a lot of people have either jumped into the transfer portal or opted out in this game. Just for Oklahoma State, let me read these off. Spencer Sanders, transfer portal. Dominique Richardson, transfer portal. Defensive tackle Brandon Evers, opt out. Trace Ford, transfer portal. Tyler Lacey, opt out. There's so many people that are coming out here. Wisconsin, Graham Mertz is in the transfer portal. I didn't know that. The backup Deacon Hill, transfer portal. Isaiah Guerrero, hopefully I'm saying that, he's in the transfer portal. You take a look at the opt-outs, though, too. 2 linemen, a nose tackle, a linebacker, Nick Higberg, who is an All-American. He's out. Like, this is everyone. Who's playing in this game?
Yeah, this is so for Oklahoma State, this is going to be a real sign of what Coach Gundy and that depth you have there, because like you said, you read off a whole host of players, and they already were struggling down the stretch anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see like who wants to suit up, who wants to play this football game. What's their incentive to actually play in this football game too? You're playing December 27th in Phoenix, Arizona, in a baseball stadium. Not exactly where Oklahoma State wanted to be this year, or Wisconsin. I think they both had maybe higher expectations. So this is kind of a deflating situation. On the other side, if you're a Badger fan, this probably is the last time you're going to see Barry Alvarez like football from the Badgers. For the last time you're going to see 4 yards in a cloud of dust. After Jim Leonard's going to stay on, he's going to be interim coach. He's going to coach this football game, and he's going to be done. He's going to step away from the program after this. But this is going to be his last run around. Braylon Allen, though, the running back, after Luke Fickell was hired, at this point he said he's staying. Anything can happen after the bowl game. You never know. But at least that's a positive news for the Badgers. But Luke Fickell is not only bringing in a lot of his staff from Cincinnati, he's bringing in the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach from North Carolina. And if you've seen what the offense has done with Sam Howell and Drake May the past couple of years, Coach Longo in the UNC offense have been clicking. He's bringing that explosive 4 receivers spread offense to Wisconsin, to Madison. So that offense is going to change drastically, and your dad might not recognize what's happening on Saturday. So this is the last game of the old era. It served its purpose for the Badgers, but this is the last game before things change for that Badger football program as they modernize the team, I believe. This game, unlike the the ECU Coastal Carolina game, this will be a defensive slugfest. I take the under, bet it hard, because these teams will not be scoring. I think there should be more defense than there will be offense, especially with backup quarterbacks who've never played all year playing. You're going to probably see a lot of turnovers, a lot of clunky play early, and it won't be. There's a reason why it'll be 10 o'clock or 9:30 Eastern Standard Time when that game is on. The only thing that I could see and make it interesting is that players who are freshmen or sophomores trying to impress the coaches for next year, trying to impress Coach Fickell if you're a Badger, it's like, hey, I'm here. Look at me. This is what I can do. If you're on the Oklahoma State team, if you're young and haven't got playing time before, use these practices. Use this game to really springboard yourself in the depth chart for next year. That's the only thing I could see if a guys bust out and have spectacular games. They're trying to showcase their skills for the future. But this is going to be a tough watch. I'm going to say the Badgers play a little more inspired because Coach Fickell's coming in. They want to impress, and it's Jim Leonard's last game. They win 17-10. Badgers get the W, but it will be a sloppy, slow-paced defensive effort.
So, Fresh, it looks like it's going to be, for Oklahoma State, it's going to be Garrett Rangel, who kind of took over for Spencer Sanders when he was injured this year, and Ollie Gordon's probably going to be the lead running back for Oklahoma State. The one benefit for Oklahoma State is there's not a whole lot of film on this group, so maybe you could, I don't know, pull the wool over the eyes for Wisconsin. Unfortunately, like I think Wisconsin's going to win the game just because you have Braylon Allen still in this game, and I don't know if Oklahoma State's going to be able to stop Braylon Allen when he gets a full head of steam. This wasn't the same Wisconsin defense. It was a good Wisconsin defense. It wasn't a great Wisconsin defense this year. They still did a lot of really nice things. Their rush defense was really solid. Their pass defense was okay. I thought that Leonard would be better, but it is what it is. I think they got better as the year went on. Once they made the coaching change, I thought that okay, things were starting to get a little more normalized. I really think that this is just that one blip in the radar for the Badgers, though, this year. Luke Fickell was on the short list for every opening in college football. Like we talked about this, every time there's an opening, he was one of the names that we brought up. He's going to come in, he's going to get that defense to being, if not as good as we've come to expect the Wisconsin defense. If not, I think he could even take it and make it a little bit better. I really do, because I started looking at some of the things that he had done with Cincinnati and what he had left Cincinnati in that bowl game. I know Louisville put up 24 points, but I watched especially in that first half of that game. I thought Cincinnati's defense played very, very well in that game. So kind of like if I'm a Wisconsin fan, that's what I'm taking away in this game. I'm looking to see what maybe can translate. You're going to have a lot of freshmen and sophomores playing in this game. Take it and run with it and see what else Luke Fickell can bring in. But give me the Badgers. I'm taking Badgers 2010. So, yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our next bowl. This one is in Memphis, Tennessee. I double-checked that one to make sure I don't get that part wrong. And the baseball stadium I was thinking of was Citi Field, not Chase Field. I was thinking of Citi Field. Got the banks flipped around there. All right, so we're going to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. The Kansas Jayhawks, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, versus the Arizona Razorbacks here. Pig Suey. Talk about like two teams that almost identical season. Early wins in the season. Climb the rankings. A lot of expectations get placed on them. Those expectations cripple the program. They go into a tailspin. They don't win a lot of football games. I'm going to go with the Razorbacks. I'll give you my pick right off jump here. I'm going to go with the Razorbacks just because I think they will be able to out-talent Kansas. But, man, you look at the last, 9 weeks of the season. This is all who Arkansas lost to. A&M, Alabama, Mississippi State. They beat BYU. They beat Auburn. Lost to Liberty. Lost to LSU. Beat Ole Miss. And then lost to Missouri at the end of the year. You take a look at Kansas. They start off the year 5-0. Lose to TCU, Oklahoma, Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas, and Kansas State. So it's like these teams had just like this such a similar year to me. I'm interested to see what Daniels does for Kansas. If he's still playing. I'm hoping that he's still playing. I'm taking a quick look here, and he is playing right now according to what I'm looking at. So hopefully Jalen Daniels kind of like balls out in this game. They do have a nice backup in Jason Bean. I won't mind seeing him play, but I'll turn it over to you, Fresh. What do you got for Arkansas, Kansas?
Well, I think you said they both run very similar paths. They have very solid starts to the season. They sort of tapered off down the stretch. I think both those were really connected to their quarterbacks being injured in the middle of the season. Daniels for Kansas and then KJ Jefferson for Arkansas. Once they both started dealing with injuries, the offense sort of tapered off and fell apart and put a lot of stress on both defenses. Kansas hasn't had any opt-outs at a drastic rate. Arkansas has seen some players opt out or get ready for the draft. A couple defensive linemen. I just saw Catalan put himself in the transfer portal. So the defense is losing some experienced players, but I think overall with KJ Jefferson coming back for next year, there's going to be incentive for him to play. And Coach Pittman's going to need take this chance to get the team rested and have a chance to really finish 7-6. Nobody wants to finish under 500. I mean, that's why there's motivation in itself. You come in at 6-6. Do you want to finish with a winning record or a losing record? Um, that right there, for Kansas, I think right now it's already been a winning season compared to where they've been in the past. If you're Arkansas, you don't want to finish 6-7 for recruiting purposes, for morale purposes. That could go down a very slippery slope. You make sure that you need incentive. This is a chance to win the football game. And if it means putting your big offensive lineman just running the football all day long and trying to dictate the pace and just getting the W, that's what you need to do. It's going to come down to, I think, both teams and their three-headed monsters on offense. For Kansas, Jalen Daniels, running back Devin Neal, and wide receiver Lawrence Arnold. The three of them have been dynamic all year. Neal has been a kid from Lawrence, Kansas, grown up in the city, understands the culture, has bought in, and now he's reaping the benefits of being that stud running back in the backfield, and has had a fantastic season. On the other side, KJ Jefferson at quarterback, running back Raheem Sanders, and wide receiver Matt Landers. That three-headed monster has done a great job. Still unsure if Jefferson's going to play. He's been dealing with some injuries. I kind of hope he does just to finish with a strong note, but they've definitely had times without him this season, so they have experience from that depth chart. This is the first bowl game, though, for Kansas since the 2008 Insight Bowl. So they have motivation just like Arkansas. Arkansas doesn't want to finish 6-7. This is the first bowl game for Kansas in a heck of a long time. That's a pretty significant accomplishment, and you want to continue to build off that and take advantage of the opportunity, and also take advantage of this extra practices you get for the bowl. And the other cool thing, Kansas, Arkansas, the word Kansas is in Arkansas, Arkansas. This is the first time these two schools have played in football since 1906. So it's not a rivalry. You would think that it'd be a fun little rivalry with the two states and kind of having the name similarities. They haven't played a long time. Basketball, probably, not in football. So this is another little monumental matchup that's taking place there in Memphis at the Liberty Bowl. I got a feeling defenses are going to be a little lackluster in this football game. Kansas' offense is what's carried the football team. Just like the other one, I think we're going to have an over on this one. We're going to get a lot of points, a lot of scoring, a lot of fun. Tune in, have a great time. If you're a scoreboard operator, get yourself some energy right now. Take a 5-out energy, get squared away. I just think Arkansas has the depth at offensive line to push it in down the field. They have a little more depth across the entire roster. They will find a way to get a win late in this football game, but it'll be probably one of the most exciting games of bowl season. But the Razorbacks get it done and take down the Jayhawks.
Yeah, the over-under at this time is set at 69 points right now. I did see here fresh, KJ Jefferson is returning to school next year. He did say he is coming back. So if he is able to give this game a go, I know you mentioned he had dealt with injuries all year long. I think if he plays in this game, then Kansas is in for some trouble. I think that they don't have an answer. They're not going to be able to contain him at all. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of points put up here. Same thing with Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels is another player. Kansas, it should be fun. It really should be fun to see what they can do because neither team really is going to care to play much defense, like you said. So, yeah, give me Arkansas by a touchdown in this game. I think maybe even more. I wouldn't be shocked if I see this game being like almost a complete blowout.
Well, the other cool thing is that both these coaches, I think, want to be where they're at. Pittman in Arkansas, Lance Leopold in Kansas, like they both have bought into those cultures and they're trying to change things. It's not like a deadbeat coach who's on his way out or wants to be somewhere else or wants to do something bigger. These guys are invested. I think that's what the players will feed off of that as well.
All right, Fresh, let's go to our next bowl here. We are going to the Military Bowl that's going to be played in Annapolis. I love it. Going all the way up to Maryland. This is going to be cold, 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 folks. The UCF Knights facing the Duke Blue Devils. Duke is a 3-point favorite in this game. Over-under is set at 62.5. I'm off a jump here, Fresh. I'm taking the under in this game, man. Duke has no one reported opted out at this time. UCF, John Rice Plumlee, He's out. He's injured. Ryan O'Keefe, Jordan Johnson, both in the transfer portal. A bunch of defensive players from UCF are in the transfer portal. This makes it for an interesting time because, you take a look at Mikey Keene, who is the backup to Jordan Rice Plumlee. He's in the transfer portal. So they're going to have freshman Thomas Castaноlas. He is, hopefully I said that right there.
Great job there on the name. I like that.
I hope I'm right on that, but he's a freshman and he's going to be taking over for Gus Malzahn. Screw you, Gus Malzahn. And all that thing there. So I don't know. This might be a fun one for us to kind of get to know the Duke Blue Devils. Like Duke is an 8-4 team that flew completely under the radar. We talked a little bit about them. Riley Leonard looked really good this season, 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He also had 11 rushing touchdowns with 600 yards on the ground. You take a look at Jordan Waters, too. 561 yards on the ground and 8 touchdowns out of him. So they have this nice little rushing attack at Duke there in Raleigh. You take a look at what they're able to do. You take a look at Jalen Calhoun, the wide receiver out there. I've really started to take a look at a few things on Duke. I kind of like him. Duke's a nice little team. And I say that because I don't want them to win this game, go 9-4, and expectations to go like sky high through the roof. Like, I'm looking at this team similar to maybe how I would look at Oregon State next year. Oregon State pulled off a huge win versus Florida in the Las Vegas Bowl. Yes, but you still have to go through Oregon. You still have to go through USC. You still have to go through Utah over there in the Pac-12 next year. Same thing with Duke. Duke pulls off this win in this game. Yeah, you still got to go through Clemson. You still have to go through Florida State. I think NC State's going to have stuff to say still next year. I think Wake Forest is still going to have stuff to say next year. So it's a nice chance for Duke to elevate themselves a little bit, but I don't want to set like some outrageous expectation by the fan base. Like, okay, like, yeah, you went 9-4. Great year for the Duke Blue Devils in football. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
I think this is a great first season for Coach Elko. Coming in their defensive mind, but the offense really kind of jump-started them early, and the defense is still sort of trickling along. But he set a base for the entire program going forward. And I think that's going to be a great sign for things to come in Durham. Like you said, the ACC is in flux. The 2 Virginia schools, they really haven't hit their stride yet. Wake's good. NC State, Dave Doran's done a great job there, but they didn't take advantage of anything the past 2 years. Who knows what Georgia Tech's going to do? Miami's, they're on the struggle bus, but that could change year to year. Florida State seems resurgent. Where are they going to go? What is Clemson going to do? Duke's in a good spot. I don't think they're going to win an ACC title, but to be competitive long term, they put themselves in a great spot here with this jump forward. This year, though, looking at the schedule, 8-4, they didn't pull off any crazy upsets. They did beat Wake Forest the last week of the year, but they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat. And that's, I think, when you try to turn a program around, you win the games you're supposed to win, and you kind of build toward getting those true monumental victories down the stretch. You can see a lot of those teams like App State's a great example. This year, you get your shocking win over Texas A&M, but you end up feeling 6-6. You had game day come, everyone was feeling you. You were 3-0 and or 2-1 after losing by 2 points to North Carolina, and then you finish 6-6. Like, you need to have a steady beat the team you're supposed to beat. Then you start finding ways to win those critical deep games. That's how you become an 8-win team, a 9-win team, a 10-win team, conference champion. So great start right now for Duke. When initially looking at this game, I was really, really hoping that John Rice Plumlee was going to play, because it was a weird situation. Outside of the military academies, we would have had 2 teams whose leading passer and leading rusher was their quarterback, because Plumlee led in passing and rushing yards for UCF. And like you said, Leonard, he led in passing with 20 touchdowns and 2,700 yards, and also led the teams in rushing with 636 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. That would have been more like a single wing bowl where the 2 of them just run around, do whatever they want to do, and get out the way run for yards and throw for yards. I was kind of hoping that was going to be the fact, but at this point of the year, injuries, I don't, and being with not a conference champion for UCF, not going to New Year's Six, Plumlee's probably like, I'm going to shut it down. Let somebody else get a playing time. And I also think that's another reason why Duke has much more motivation in this bowl game than UCF. A couple weeks ago, UCF had potentially to play in a New Year's Six and win an AAC title. Both those dreams are down, and now they're playing here. And that's probably why a lot of guys put themselves in the transfer portal. A lot of the guys are opting out of the ball game because what's the incentive now? Your achievement level has now significantly decreased coming here and playing in the Armed Forces Bowl. So this is going to be, I think Duke is going to come in with motivation and a chance to get 9 wins in your first year, play with a lot of excitement, and I think they get it done. And they're going to take advantage of momentum and wanting to be there and building momentum toward the future. UCF, I just don't see it right now, and I think they're just going to sort of patch things together and try to get through the game.
Yeah, I think UCF is kind of done for the year. I think that Malzahn kind of the writing's on the wall. Just take your lumps this year, jump into the Big 12 next year, and let's see where you roll with it. Here we go. But good job out of Duke, man. Good job out of you. Like I said, nice season for them. I really am. I'm impressed with the Blue Devils. I really thought they had a great year for them. So, all right, Fresh. Let's jump into maybe I don't know if I want to call it the most interesting game up until the 29th. I really like this one. It's the San Diego County Credit Union, the Holiday Bowl. The one bowl game that I would be, if I'm going to this bowl game, sign me up because I love the city of San Diego. You're taking a look at Oregon is a 14-point favorite. Over-under in this game is set at 72 points. A lot of points there. To me, Bo Nix announced he's coming back for his doctoral season, I guess, over there at Oregon. He's going to be 23 next year, playing with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. But a bunch of kids for Oregon have entered into the transfer portal. A good bit have entered in for the transfer portal for North Carolina. Most importantly, for North Carolina, losing Josh Downs. Josh Downs has opted out of this game, so it is sad that we're not going to be able to see this. But really, to me, Fresh, I think that this is potential for the 2023 Heisman. I think Bo Nix, if he plays again like he did prior to getting injured, he was a dark horse sleeper Heisman candidate. There's a little bit of talk about him. Drake May has had one of the best freshman seasons we've seen in a while there. 4,000 yards passing. On top of that, 650 yards rushing. 42 total touchdowns on the season. Impressive out of him. So could we be watching a battle of the two front runners for Heisman for 2023? I think so. I think that 14 number is really high for Oregon, but I also know that North Carolina is kind of limping in on this game. Fresh, what are you thinking?
Well, it's amazing how what's today the 18th of December, recording this 6 weeks ago, maybe 7 weeks ago, there was talk about these teams both being dark horses for the college football playoff. Oregon was riding high, going to that game versus Washington. UNC was rolling, and then I think injuries from the Oregon standpoint, because Bo Nix, if he had played healthy now in the football game, the two offensive linemen were healthy, they might have actually found a way to score a touchdown and change momentum in that Washington game and maybe get the chance to win that one. And then obviously the Oregon State game. But UNC, they sort of, they had the clunker collapse versus Georgia Tech at home, and then losing to, NC State, and then obviously getting beat by Clemson in the title game. It's just sort of what could have been. Where were these teams at? I like your thoughts of maybe this is a Heisman prediction for next year. You have two quarterbacks who are very explosive with their legs and their arms. You want to see more consistency from both, because if Drake May was consistent, I think there's been a chance that they could have won those games down the stretch, or at least two of the three. And if Bo can maybe stay a little more healthy and stay on the field, Oregon has a chance to win. So it's going to be interesting to see how both quarterbacks take this game, both offenses evolve from this game, and which team actually wants to be there. Who's ready for the year to be over, and who's ready to use this as a springboard toward next year. Dane Lanning just completed his first year, and I think did a pretty good job at Oregon, considering the first game of the year getting boat raced by the dogs, and then getting them back off the mat and moving forward from there. North Carolina still has defensive issues, and that's a problem. It's gonna hang over their head until they get that fixed. That team's not going to be able what they could be until Gene Chizik and Mac Brown, that defense, figure it out. Uh, I think this game's gonna be a lot of fun. I think there's gonna be a lot of let loose and play and a little fancy free. And thank God we actually get a holiday bowl this year, because last year, with COVID things happening with UCLA, they had to back out and the game was canceled. So let's get this game on. Um, I'm going to say Oregon gets the W. It's a long flight from Chapel Hill all the way out to San Diego. Oregon right there already on the West Coast, and keeping a few of their players around. I think Oregon gets it done, and they'll play a little more defense than UNC, but it'll be a fun game, a lot of points, and quack quack, go Ducks, and get it done.
Fresh, I like I let off here. I love San Diego. I absolutely think it's one of the most beautiful places in the country. I think it's one of the places that if you've never visited it before, that would be it's with that there in Vegas, I think would be the two hardest places for me to stay focused on a bowl game. And that's something that I already started thinking about here, where how many of the times they go and see the great panda at the zoo. Like you go and see a panda bear eating bamboo for 23 hours out of the day.
We're on
Yeah,
Panda Watch.
seriously. Like, I mean, have you ever seen a panda in person? Okay.
Yes,
So
I've been to the San Diego Zoo.
so you understand the fascination where while you will stare at a panda, you will also see something that you don't see anywhere else in San Diego. A cheetah walking down the pathway of the zoo. It's so cool because you have these dogs that are trained with the cheetah and the cheetah follows the dog. So I'm looking at this, and is Oregon just sitting back like a panda, just eating that bamboo, saying that this is, we're eating our season, like, yeah, it was a great year. I'm fat and I'm happy because everyone thought I was going to be bad. And, I'll just sit here eating my bamboo. Or are they going to be the cheetah that are just, following the dog? Are you going to follow the dog? And that's kind of how I feel like North Carolina is Drake made that dog that can lead that cheetah-like offense for UNC. UNC showed that they can just bam, 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 hit you up with some points really, really quick. I really like this UNC team. I would like them a lot more if Downs was playing in this game. Like that's my number one question. And that's the only thing that is stopping me from picking UNC to win this game. If I had some confidence, and I mean I had like Antonio Green, nice receiver from him, but how much of that is we saw what Josh Downs has done for 2 years now? How much of that is defense rolling coverage to double team Josh Downs? How many times is it making sure that there's a safety over the top to help with Downs? So I need to see Antonio Green like really come up and ball out in this game. Maybe someone like, I'm taking a look, seeing if making sure any of these kids haven't transferred out or opted out yet. You take a look at JJ Jones. He had 23 catches on the year. Is he another kid that can step up and kind of lead that cheetah offense again? I don't know. I don't know because I'm worried about Oregon. I like Oregon in this game. I think Oregon's got a chance to like really pull off and say, "Hey, we like you said, you start off with the terrible loss to Georgia in Atlanta, but you got an opportunity to go 10-3. North Carolina, you have an opportunity to go 10-4, and you could easily be the talk of the ACC going into next season, depending on how you look in this game. So, are you going to be a cheetah or are you going to be a panda? Which one are you going to be? I'm going to say Oregon is going to win the game. They're going to have too much panda in them and not enough cheetah. But I definitely think North Carolina is going to beat that 14-point spread in this game. Also, give me the over in it too. I know that the over is like an insane amount of points right now, 72 points right now, but I'll take the over still. I think this is going to be a lot of points in this game. So, yeah.
And folks, for the record, as far as I know, the various news crews in the San Diego area do not get around, gather in a back alley and have a brawl. That's a myth. It's not
Yeah.
a fact.
Definitely no Anchorman happening out there as well. But it'd be awesome if like the actors from Anchorman could actually call this game. Like have them be the broadcast team. That'd be fantastic. Although you need the censor button there shortly. But
Censor button and
yeah.
teleprompter.
Yeah, so folks, I definitely, guys, if any of the players from North Carolina, Oregon are listening to this by an off chance, or any alumni, make sure you go to the San Diego Zoo prior to going to the football game and enjoy yourself in San Diego, because it's the best weather you will ever find ever in this entire country. So if I ever hit the Powerball or Mega Fresh, you'll find me in La Jolla, California, which is about 20 minutes north of San Diego.
Well, I will visit you via WebEx
Yeah,
or
we'll
Zoom.
figure something out. All right, folks. Thank you. You've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you're going to spinnablesports.com. Yes, that is spinnablesports.com. On the website, we've put out just this past couple week, we have our All-American team. We have the top 10 college football games from the 2022 season. All that is there. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, Amazon Pods, Google Pods. I don't know. There's a bunch of them. Just like, subscribe, leave us that 5-star review, because Fresh and I, we're those 5-star prospects. If you're watching us on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe to that Spinnable Sports channel. Hit that notification bell like you're a panda or a cheetah going after whatever you want to go after. Hit the notification bell so you know every single time we drop a new episode. We still got to do the New Year's Six Bowls. We still got to talk about the playoffs, so you don't want to miss any of that information that we got come for you. And special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. I don't want to even make a comparison there. So, Fresh, great second week of bowl season.
Hey, bowl season magical. Anything can happen. Just like this podcast, it's full of crazy twists and turns and cheetahs and pandas.
Absolutely. Nothing would be better than those things. And I did sit for about 30 minutes watching a panda eat bamboo. It was fascinating. So,
Figured y'all did. With that, bye y'all.